The breath before the sound. It begins with a silence that hums, not empty but alive, like the breath drawn before a song too ancient to forget. The world seems suspended between heartbeat and heartbeat, a pause so deep that even the stars lean closer to listen. In that stillness, creation trembles, waiting for the first note that will wake memory itself. Mountains bow their heads. Oceans draw back as if the moon whispered, "Be still." In the fields, winds lose their direction, hesitating on the skin of the earth. And somewhere, a voice, neither male nor female, neither far nor near, says softly, "Now." The voice is not loud. It is the sound of recognition. It travels across valleys, through veins, through prayers, gathering every lost syllable of faith. When it touches a soul, the soul remembers. And for the first time since Eden, the universe exhales together. Then the sky shivers. A line of light cracks open the horizon, golden and trembling. The first sound is not thunder, it is a breath. But that breath turns into tone, and that tone becomes the first trumpet. The first trumpet, the call to remember. The first trumpet does not rage. It does not tear mountains or drown cities. It sings, a single note, pure and sharp as dawn on water. It cuts through centuries of noise, slicing open the membrane between the sacred and the ordinary. Children feel it before scholars do. They look up from their play, eyes wide, hands still, as if the wind had called them by name. Mothers, in kitchens filled with steam, pause mid-movement, ladles suspended in the air. In the corridors of power, pens drop, and the ink blooms like bruises across forgotten treaties. Even the machines falter, unsure which rhythm to obey. Every living thing hears the first trumpet differently. For some, it is nostalgia, an ache for innocence. For others, it is confession, the sound of pride dissolving. In the hearts of those who have loved too little or too late, it becomes a wound and a promise at once. The forests sway as though remembering the dance of creation. The seas pulse with light beneath their skin. And humanity, scattered, weary, half asleep in its own inventions, lifts its head for the first time in generations. A whisper accompanies the sound, threading through the air like smoke through sunlight. Return. The beginning is not behind you. It has waited inside you. Come home. The old remember their youth. The young feel the weight of eternity in their ribs. Cities hum like tuning forks. Deserts bloom with phantom rain. Some fall to their knees. Others weep without understanding why. It is not fear that moves them. It is recognition. A memory stirs of something they once promised before they knew words. A covenant sealed in light, forgotten in haste, and now awakened by sound. The trumpet fades slowly, but the echo lingers, weaving itself into heartbeat and breath. People look around and see one another, not as strangers, but as fragments of the same sentence God once spoke at the dawn of time. Somewhere, a door opens. Not in a temple, not in heaven, but in the human chest. And from that open door flows the quiet certainty that the story of the world is not written in fire, but in return. The first trumpet has done its work. The earth, though unchanged in form, is softer now, ready. The second trumpet, the turning of hearts. The air thickens before the second sound arrives. It rolls across the horizon like thunder that has been healed of its anger, deep, resonant, and full of patience. The world, newly awakened by the first call, listens again. When the second trumpet sounds, the seas stir. Tides rise not in destruction but in confession. Salt and foam whisper of abundance lost, of greed that called itself progress. Ships sway like penitent giants. The waves themselves seem to kneel. In the cities, markets tremble. Gold loses its shimmer. The hands that held it ache, as if from lifting stones too heavy for the soul. Vaults breathe for the first time, their iron ribs expanding with release. Coins roll across the floors of empty banks and come to rest at the feet of beggars. The trumpet's voice is a low hum weaving through the arteries of commerce and pride. It sings not against wealth, but against fear. The fear that hoards, that builds fences around bread. And where the sound touches hearts, something begins to melt. A merchant opens his storehouse to those who once swept his doorstep. A landlord forgives the rent of a widow. A mother who has nothing but half a loaf shares it anyway and discovers it multiplies before her eyes. No miracle more dramatic could occur. The multiplication of compassion is the most radiant of all wonders. The second trumpet turns the world from scarcity to sufficiency, from clenched fists to open tables. Its melody is not command, but invitation. Give what you fear to lose, and you will discover what cannot be taken. The sky, once heavy with unshed rain, releases itself in joy. The rain falls soft and wide, washing dust from roofs and hearts alike. People lift their faces to it and taste something they haven't tasted in centuries: trust. For the first time, humanity eats and drinks without calculating. They understand that sharing is not loss, but completion. The third trumpet. The waters of forgiveness. Then comes the third sound, rising clear and high as glass struck by light. Where the first called us home, and the second taught us to share, the third trumpet teaches us to cleanse. It begins in the rivers. The water turns bright, almost luminous, as though remembering Eden's clarity. Fish leap for joy and vanish again, leaving ripples shaped like halos. Birds dip their wings and scatter droplets that fall as blessings upon the waiting earth. In towns and villages, fountains overflow. People gather with jars and bowls, and when they drink, they taste both salt and sweetness, remembrance and renewal. Some weep into the water before they drink. Some wash their faces and find they look younger, not in flesh, but in soul. The sound of the trumpet passes through their bones like light through stained glass. Grudges, the oldest diseases of humankind, begin to loosen their grip. In families divided for decades, phones ring. Hands once folded in resentment unfold. Letters long unwritten find their words. A soldier meets the eyes of his enemy across a checkpoint and sees not a target, but a mirror. A father, who swore he'd never forgive, finds himself whispering his son's name into the wind. In prisons, inmates pray for their guards. In palaces, rulers kneel where they once sat. The third trumpet purifies not through flood, but through mercy. It washes the world without drowning it. Its echo is soft, but it travels far, through churches and mosques, through alleys and skyscrapers, through every heart that has ever ached to be understood. Its message is simple and terrible in its beauty. Forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you do. The note trembles at the edge of the heavens, then dissolves like foam into the tide of human tears. But what follows is not sorrow. It is relief. Rainbows appear, not in the sky, but in puddles underfoot. Children chase them and laugh, unafraid of mud. The laughter spreads. It climbs walls, slips into offices, infects boardrooms and hospitals, until even the weary begin to smile. Forgiveness, it seems, is contagious. It travels faster than anger once did. The world does not yet know how to hold it, but it tries, clumsily, honestly, beautifully. And as the third trumpet fades, a new sound rises beneath it, the quiet heartbeat of reconciliation. It beats not just in hearts, but in mountains, in trees, in the rhythm of waves. Creation itself exhales in gratitude. For a moment, the entire planet feels clean again. The fourth trumpet, the vision restored. The third trumpet fades into silence, but that silence is not empty. It breathes. It is the quiet heartbeat of the world, waiting for sight to return. For centuries, humanity has seen, but not understood. Eyes open, but blind to wonder. The fourth trumpet changes that. When it sounds, the note is not sharp, but luminous, like light made audible, like dawn learning how to sing. It begins as a vibration deep beneath the surface of things. Rocks hum, roots tremble. Somewhere in the desert, a flower blooms at midnight. The stars, far above, flicker as though a divine hand were brushing dust from their faces. And then it happens. The world begins to see itself clearly for the first time. Windows shatter, not from violence, but from illumination. Light floods the streets, not from the sun, but from within. A radiance rising from souls, from thoughts, from the simplest gestures of love. It touches everything. A boy holding his grandfather's hand, a teacher bending down to tie a child's shoe, a stranger leaving bread on a doorstep without name or note. Each small act glows, connected like stars in a single constellation of mercy. People stop in their tracks, bewildered. They blink, rub their eyes, and see halos around one another. Not golden, not exaggerated, just a shimmer of the truth that has always been there. Some fall to their knees. Some laugh through tears. A scientist stares at a microscope and realizes that the cell he studies looks suspiciously like a universe. A poet forgets language and simply breathes. A soldier lowers his weapon because the enemy's face is lit with the same radiance as his own. The fourth trumpet's tone rises, curling through the air like incense. Its sound is shaped like compassion, like a sigh that finally forgives itself. It teaches humanity the lost art of perception, seeing without judgment, understanding without control. In churches, temples, and open fields, people gather not to perform ritual, but to behold. They look at the sky and see scripture written in clouds. They look at one another and see God in disguise. A painter finds his hands trembling as he touches the canvas. The color itself seems to pray. A musician closes her eyes mid-song because she can hear what comes after sound, the silence that holds eternity like a seed. Everywhere, vision is being restored. But this is not the old kind of seeing. This is revelation, a seeing that demands humility. The trumpet's echo reaches the highest peaks and the deepest prisons. Even the blind can feel it, the warmth of sight pressing gently against their eyelids. They smile because though they do not see as others do, they now perceive what others have missed all along, the nearness of grace. And yet, the light is not soft for all. In the alleys of greed, in the corners of cruelty, the illumination burns. It exposes what is hidden too long in shadow, the corruption dressed as wisdom, the violence justified as righteousness. For a moment, the world flinches, afraid of what it has shown itself. But the light does not accuse, it reveals. It says, "See and become." A mother weeps over a child she once abandoned. A priest lays down his title and becomes a servant again. A tyrant, alone in his golden hall, sees the faces of the hungry reflected in the mirrors of his wealth. And in that reflection, he sees himself for the first time. The trumpet swells, a symphony of revelation. Every truth hidden, every lie beloved, every heart sealed, now stands unveiled. Not for punishment, but for possibility. The world stands naked before its creator and realizes that shame was never required for transformation. As the note stretches, it thins into threads of light that weave across the sky. Each thread connects something that had been torn, a prayer unanswered to its echo, a promise forgotten to its fulfillment, a wound to its healing. And then the light settles, not above, not below, but within. Eyes adjust, the world exhales, the sound fades. But something has changed forever. Where once humanity saw only survival, now it perceives purpose. Where once it saw only strangers, now it recognizes siblings. And where once it believed the divine dwelled elsewhere, now it feels the pulse of heaven inside its own chest. The fourth trumpet has restored not just vision, but reverence. And as the echo fades into silence, people whisper the only prayer that makes sense anymore. Let us never go blind again. A hush follows. It is the kind of quiet that comes after awe, not absence. The air itself seems luminous, expectant. The world, bathed in new sight, stands trembling, not in fear, but in readiness. Because somewhere beyond the veil of this holy calm, the fifth trumpet is already drawing its breath. The fifth trumpet. The battle. Within. The silence after the fourth trumpet is not empty. It is a held breath before a name is spoken. Shadows are thin, the air clear, and yet somewhere under the ribs of the world, something wrestles. When the fifth trumpet sounds, it does not tear the sky. It enters like a blade of light through a locked door. The note moves through alleys of the mind where fear keeps its ledgers. It passes the rooms where shame keeps its trophies, dust gilded and unloved. It crosses a courtyard where anger has planted flags on the graves of old betrayals. Each place it pauses, listening, naming, refusing to be hurried. In a hospital corridor, a man grips a chair as if it were the last plank of a shipwreck. He has the face of someone who has not forgiven himself since the year everything went wrong. The sound finds him. He hears, not with his ears, but with the portion of his heart that still remembers mercy's touch. The chair becomes lighter. He stands. Across the city, a woman stares at a screen glowing with the old familiar bargaining. Just one more purchase, one more hour, one more secret. The note threads the blue light and rests on her eyelids. She blinks, and the advertisement dissolves like fog. Her hunger does not vanish. It narrates itself in a truer tongue. I do not want more. I want enough. I want to stop running from the room where I keep my name. The fifth trumpet is a physician's call. It summons what cowers and what struts, what hides in the cellars, and what parades on the roofs. Addictions line up, wearing their favorite costumes. Success, romance, outrage, enlightenment. Each waits to be indulged. Instead, the sound puts a hand on each shoulder and says, "Gently now, tell the truth, without the costume." Lies, surprised to discover how small they are without echo chambers, begin to shrink. They do not die. They confess. And in confessing, they lose their power to impersonate oxygen. The lungs of the soul expand. Breath returns like tide. 1,000 private prisons hear the rattle of keys that were never iron. Keys forged of tenderness, of honest naming, of invitations to walk in daylight. Doors swing open. Some prisoners hesitate. The outside air looks too sharp to trust. But the note does not command. It accompanies. Step by step, it walks beside each trembling foot into morning. In boardrooms and basements, monasteries and motels, the same scene plays. Someone sets down the weapon they built from fear. For one, it is a bottle. For another, a polished belief that made him feel superior and safe. For another, a grudge worn smooth with handling. All of them shine dully in the new light. None of them can sweeten the aftertaste of a life lived clenched. You expect the battle to be loud. You expect banners and anthems and heroic speeches. But the fifth trumpet conducts a quieter war, the only one that ever mattered. the war against the tyrant within. The tyrant has many names: compulsion, despair, vanity, control. Today, each hears the same sentence pronounced in a voice so calm it cannot be accused of violence. You may go. Not everything leaves at once. Some haunt the threshold, arguing. We kept you alive, they say. We built walls where the wolves howled. We taught you how to win. The note listens, and then it plays a counter melody. Small mercies, undeserved kindnesses, the faces of those who loved you when you were unlovable. Against this music, the tyrants have no choreography. They drift back into the dark that birthed them, a dark that is not hell, but compost. In a chapel, a monk lays face down and surrenders his ambition to become holy by effort alone. In a kitchen, a mother forgives herself for all the days she did not have enough to give. On a bus, a teenager deletes the proof he had collected of his own unworthiness, screenshots, rumors, cruel inventions, and replaces them with a single line typed into the Notes app. I will learn how to be kind to myself. The trumpet's tone tightens, as if drawing a bow across the string of the universe. It aims not at enemies, but at the knot in the human heart. You know the knot. It is where promises snarled with panic, where vows pulled so hard they turned into chains. One by one, the loops loosen. What bound you begins to look strangely, like what will hold you in place when the wind rises. The way a sailor's knot becomes a discipline, not a prison. A soldier dreams of laying his armor on the floor and discovering it was made of mirrors. He weeps, not because he is naked, but because he can finally see the ones he defended and the ones he harmed, both reflected in the same mercy. He wakes with salt on his lip, and the taste is not defeat, it is freedom. In the neighborhood where sirens used to sing the nightly psalm, quietness hovers like a blessing that forgot to fly away. A dealer folds his profits into a paper boat and sets it afloat in a gutter river. He will not be a saint by evening, but he will not sell night to children again. He stands in the doorway and breathes like someone who almost drowned and found a shore. The fifth trumpet does not flatter. It does not say, "You are flawless." It says, "You are loved." And what is loved can be changed. In the light of that assertion, denial loses its arguments. Shame, so skilled at impersonating a conscience, bows to sorrow, which bows to joy, which bows to gratitude, which bows to love. Each bow is lighter than the last. There are tears. Of course, the end of a long siege feels like collapse before it feels like relief. But even the weeping is different now. It no longer drowns, it baptizes. People emerge from it wet and blinking, as if born. Night leans against the city with less suspicion. Windows glow with undramatic miracles. Food shared, phones silenced, hands held without needing to fix. Beds, once altars to unrest, become fields where sleep finally grows. The moon, watching like an old friend, returned unannounced, keeps the secret of these small salvations and writes them in silver on the roofs. When the note at last begins to fade, it does not drop away. It widens. It thins into a veil of sound through which one can walk without fear. On the other side, the world is not new. It is truer. The battle is not over. No battle worth winning ever is. But its theater has changed. No longer fought on the surface of days with weapons borrowed from despair. It is waged in the depth of nights with tools carved from trust. The trumpet has drawn the map and given you a compass whose needle points to the nearest mercy. Follow it. If you get lost, and you will, the compass will not shame you. It will rest in your palm and hum until your palm hums back. Even the detours will learn to kneel. And somewhere, because the world is wide, because grace has a long stride, a small, almost hidden chorus begins to sing the relief of the delivered. They do not know each other's names. They share a melody anyway. It sounds like doors opening and footsteps not running away. It sounds like a tyrant in the heart discovering he is tired and lying down. The fifth trumpet rests, not silent, but satisfied. It has turned the battlefield into a sanctuary and the soldier into a pilgrim. He looks up, and the sky looks back, closer than before. Between them, a bridge the color of breath. It will hold. The sixth trumpet, the reunion of humanity. The fifth trumpet fades, leaving behind a stillness that feels like soil after storm. Wet, dark, ready. You could almost believe the world is waiting for something to grow. And then, almost gently, the sixth trumpet breathes its first note. It does not come from the sky this time. It rises from the ground, from the footsteps of people who have stopped running, from the heartbeat of those who choose to walk toward instead of away. The sound is a slow procession, a melody that knows the names of nations, but sings them as family. On a border where soldiers once stared across barbed wire, children now kick a ball. At first, both sides watch warily, but then one soldier laughs, a short, broken laugh that sounds like the first crack of sunrise, and kicks the ball back. The others join, uncertain, awkward, redeemed. By dusk, the wire is invisible beneath a string of paper lanterns glowing like souls set free. In another land, refugees returning home find the road lined with those who once turned them away. No speeches, no flags, just open arms and the quiet rhythm of footsteps on dust. The rhythm of forgiveness given legs. An old woman presses bread into a stranger's hand. "Eat," she says. "It will taste like my country, which used to be only mine." The trumpet's tone gathers strength. It swells over cities, over deserts, over oceans bruised by centuries of division. It carries a single command disguised as a blessing. Remember that no border can hold love, and no language can silence compassion. Everywhere, small reconciliations bloom. A teacher kneels to help a student from a different faith tie his shoelaces. A policeman sits on a curb beside a protester and shares a bottle of water. An atheist lights a candle for a believer who has fallen ill, and both of them smile at the absurd grace of it. Across the world, news anchors stutter. They have no headline for peace. They call it unusual calm, but the people know better. They recognize the hum beneath their ribs, the same hum that ran through creation when the first trumpet called them home. It is the sound of reunion. It is the world remembering we. Rivers once dammed in fear break their chains and find each other. Bridges grow out of old ruins, vines curling over cracks, turning scars into structure. Markets reopen, not to exploit, but to exchange. Bread crosses tables. Hands touch without hesitation. Names once shouted in hatred are now whispered in prayer. The trumpet's vibration touches every faith and every doubt. It does not erase them, it harmonizes them. The call to prayer, the church bell, the chanting of monks, the laughter of children, all fall into the same rhythm, like different tongues, praying to the same truth. Even silence joins the choir. In that unity, differences no longer threaten, they enrich. Cultures meet, and, instead of collision, there is fusion. A mosaic forming where a wall once stood. The trumpet swells again, majestic, tender, infinite. And from the heart of the sound comes a whisper, almost human. You were never meant to conquer each other. You were meant to complete each other. Then the vision grows vaster. You see it not through eyes, but through belonging itself. Nations become like instruments in an orchestra, violins of compassion, drums of justice, flutes of mercy. No one plays the same note, but every note knows where it fits. The conductor is unseen, but every heartbeat follows his rhythm. Rain falls on every continent at once, silver thread stitching the world together. No storm, just blessing. Fields in war-torn lands turn green again. Cities scarred by riots fill with murals of light and hands clasped. The smell of bread baking mingles with incense and salt and the faint sweetness of peace. Old enemies meet on bridges built from rubble and tears. They stand there, unable to speak, until one steps forward and says the simplest truth. I missed you. It is enough. They embrace, and the sky ripples like a mirror touched by wind. In that moment, you realize the trumpet is not only sounding through the air, it is sounding through every act of reconciliation, every yes uttered against centuries of no. Everywhere the melody travels, pride forgets its posture, and arrogance forgets its throne. Humanity is kneeling, but not in defeat. It kneels because it has remembered wonder. The sound swells one final time. It circles the planet, gathering the laughter of children, the prayers of the dying, the songs of lovers, the sighs of the forgiven. It carries them upward like offerings. And when it reaches the heavens do not thunder back. They weep soft, radiant tears that fall as dew over every sleeping soul. People wake in the middle of the night, unsure why their faces are wet. They dreamt of each other. They dreamt of belonging. And when morning comes, they find that the dream has followed them into waking. Doors open before knocking. Meals begin before invitations. Names, once foreign, now taste like home when spoken aloud. The sixth trumpet quiets. But it does not end. It becomes background music for a new world, learning its first word again. Together. Now, the air is bright, the soil hums, and deep in the bones of the earth, something greater begins to move. The seventh trumpet is drawing breath. It will not merely sing, it will unveil. The seventh trumpet, the revelation of light. The world holds its breath. All the echoes of the first six trumpets, remembrance, mercy, forgiveness, vision, deliverance, reunion, gather like streams returning to the sea. Then the air trembles, heavy with holiness. The seventh trumpet begins to sound. It is not loud. It does not crack the sky or shatter stone. It unfolds, slowly, like a sunrise that has been patient for 1,000 generations. Every color you have ever loved is in this sound. It hums in bones, in oceans, in galaxies. It is the sound of everything that was ever broken remembering its shape. The heavens blaze with light, not a violent fire, but a living brilliance that moves like breath across the face of creation. Wherever the light touches, it transforms. Ashes turn to seeds, wounds to windows, tears to jewels. No cry is wasted. Each one becomes a note in the symphony of restoration. In the deepest corners of despair, the light bends low, entering without permission, but never without tenderness. It whispers to the forgotten, "You were never lost to me." It lifts the hopeless and clothes them in dawn. Those who were silent begin to sing. Those who were blind begin to see not with eyes, but with awe. Across the world, time pauses. The clocks keep moving, but no one cares to count. For the first time since the fall of memory, people look at the sky without fear. The constellations rearrange themselves into patterns of promise. A crown of stars, a ladder of light, a river pouring upward instead of down. In every language, at once, a single truth unfolds. Behold, I make all things new. And it is not spoken by one voice, but by all voices joined. The voice of mothers and martyrs, prophets and prisoners, children and kings. Each syllable carries both thunder and tenderness. The phrase does not end. It keeps widening until even silence is filled with its meaning. The trumpet's light deepens. It becomes vision, not of catastrophe, but of completion. You see the tapestry of existence from the side only God could see. The chaos that once terrified you revealed as color and thread in a vast design too intricate for fear. You realize that even sorrow was part of the song, a minor key needed to make the melody whole. The seas glow like molten glass. Mountains shed their snow and reveal hearts of gold beneath stone. Animals stand still, eyes reflecting the same calm intelligence. Everywhere, creation bows, not out of submission, but out of recognition. The trumpet rises higher, reaching a note that no instrument could hold, and yet every heart can hear it. It sounds like truth at last unhidden. It sounds like love without defense. It sounds like the first laughter after grief, the first kiss after war, the first child born after centuries of waiting. And in that sound, humanity sees itself, not as conqueror, not as victim, but as beloved. The world had always been holy. It simply forgot. The seventh trumpet does not end the world. It ends the forgetting. Now the heavens open, not as a wound, but as an embrace. You expect judgment, but what arrives is joy. You expect a book of crimes, but what appears is a book of names. Your name among them, glowing softly, surrounded by every act of kindness you thought too small to matter. A cup of water you gave to a stranger, a word spoken gently when it could have cut. A prayer whispered half in doubt. Each shines brighter than gold. The light sweeps across the earth one final time, leaving no shadow unkissed. And then the sound folds in upon itself, smaller, softer, until it becomes a heartbeat again. The seventh trumpet rests. The world, trembling, exhales. The echo before the dawn. There is silence once more, but it is not the silence of fear. It is the silence of fulfillment, a quiet after a song too vast for applause. Dawn rises without edges. The light seems to come from everywhere, from water, from stone, from faces. No one asks where heaven is anymore. They know. It is wherever love is practiced without permission. Children chase the morning across fields newly green. Elders sit in doorways, hands open, telling stories that no longer ache. The air smells of rain and bread and new beginnings. People speak softly now, not because they are afraid, but because they have finally learned reverence. The languages of the world, once fractured by pride, sound like harmonies of the same song. Even silence has found its place in the rhythm, like a rest between notes. And if you listen carefully, you can still hear the echo of the seventh trumpet. Not loud, not demanding, but steady as breath. It hums beneath the wind, beneath laughter, beneath every "I'm sorry" and every "I forgive you." It hums beneath birth and beneath death. It hums beneath the unremarkable miracle of an ordinary day. A child asks her mother, "Is the world over?" And the mother, smiling, answers, "No, love, it has just begun." Somewhere, an angel closes the book of Revelation and sets it down not as ending, but as invitation. A dove lands on the cover. The ink, still wet, gleams in the light. Across its pages is written one final sentence. The end is not the end. It is the echo before the dawn.